Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to the Business Lounge podcast. I am your host, Jess Cassidy, and today we have a special guest in the house. We have Morgan, who is the founder of MG Media Group. And today we're going to be talking all about social media agency, their services, social media marketing strategies, and I'm so excited. So let's just dive right in. Hey, Morgan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jess. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm so excited. We all love social media and we love social media managers even more if we don't have to handle it all. So,
Yeah, yeah,
what a
yeah.
pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Super excited to just, talk all about, everything that you've got. But why don't you tell us a little bit about you, how you got started, and how you started MG Media Group?
Yeah, so I have a bit of a very interesting story. I think life was not linear for me. It's not like I went to school for marketing and then I just end up in this. I actually was a pre-med major. So I have a science background and I actually got into social media marketing in that gap period between me applying to med school. So me and my now fiance had started a wellness business. It was back in 2019 when everybody was doing the CBD businesses, right? So we invested a lot of money in product development and all that good stuff. And we plan to use paid ads to get our product out there. That was just our approach. What we didn't know is that with CBD businesses, you can't use paid ads. So at this,
Oh,
right. So at this point, we're like, okay, I'm fresh out. Well, I was like maybe 2 years post college at this point. So it's not like we're like rich or anything, we're still in that broke college student
yeah, yeah.
or post college student phase. So like, oh man, we didn't spend all this money. What do we do? So he took on more of the acquisition portion of it. So trying to get our products in stores. And then I took over the organic marketing, learning everything about digital marketing. Like we have this product, how do I get it in front of people? So that's when I really learned about social media marketing, influencer marketing, brand collaborations, how to create content, things of that nature. Simultaneously, I was also really into traveling. We became digital, so we started the company to become digital nomads,
Mhm.
and I wanted to do the travel creator. So simultaneously, I'm also learning about how to build communities as a curator, not necessarily as a business, as well as content creation, video editing, things of that nature. And so I end up, long story short, our business did really well. We ended up growing our email list to a little over 3,000 people in under 2 years. We sold over 5,000 products in over 2 years, in under 2 years. But our business did extremely well during COVID, like extremely well, but too well because we had supply chain issues.
Oh
So we
no.
were kind of faced with that, like, okay, what do we do now? And it was a good opportunity for us to pivot because it was a good business and we had a fulfillment center to handle most of it so we could continue to travel. But it wasn't something that I can say was more passion filled. It was more of an opportunity. So we both were like, let's go ahead and pivot. We've made some money from it. We did a good thing and we've learned, and fortunately I learned some skills to that I actually learned love doing. And so from there, I started freelance doing social media marketing as well as content creation for businesses. And I really haven't looked back.
Wow, that's amazing. And sometimes, you just learn by doing and accidents happen. And I think that that's, a lot of times the way that most successful businesses get started and thrive, right?
Yep, trial and error when you get your hands down there because I took a lot of courses to learn, but like you said, once you actually start doing
Yeah.
things, that's when you start to see the nuance. Like, oh, okay, this is what I read, but now that I'm seeing it happening, it makes so much more sense, and it just clicks, and that light bulb really goes off.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so hard to just read it and everything. You have to like be able to do it and just get out there and get your feet right in it, right?
Yeah, application is everything.
Absolutely. So, what do you think is what sets MG Media Groups apart from any other social media agency?
We use a lot of data. That's super, super important to us. So making sure, when I say data, making sure we understand your industry very well, but most importantly, in your business, but most importantly, your audience. We have a very, very customer-centric approach. We take a lot and we do a very intensive deep dive into knowing who your target audience is, what language they use, what are their pain points, what are their aspirations. Just really making sure we understand them and very specific in the language we use to making sure that our content, when they see it, they know it's for sure for them versus content that they're like, oh, I think this is for me. It's kind of like we want to make sure we're using the language and the thoughts that they're having so that when that content comes across the screen, like, oh my gosh, you're in my head, you know? And we use a lot of marketing psychology, cognitive biases in marketing psychology and why people buy and knowing how to integrate that into your content as well as sales psychology. Because at the end of the day, we know that businesses, they're going to pay that high ticket for their social media marketing. It needs to be driving some type of return for them, right? So how can we get our content to actually convert into, ultimately a sell, but that might look different depending on what phase your business is. Maybe you're
Yeah.
focusing on your email list or, maybe you're focusing on just brand awareness right now. So it's going to look different, but making sure that content is going to convert.
Yeah, and I think too that it's probably really hard to get people, your clients and potential clients and stuff, to understand what like a successful campaign or a successful social media management looks like, because I think that people expect instant results, right?
100%, 100%. And with organic, it's just, you can see you'll see a you'll see results, but it might not be the wow results that you're looking for. So
Yeah.
immediately you might see an increased engagement, but that increased engagement in month one might not necessarily look like a 30% increase in sales,
Mhm.
But knowing that this engagement in month one can, now that we're doubling down on what's working and we're taking out what's not, we're constantly refining. Okay, so now what can we do in month two to make sure that this engagement is now translating into whatever goal it is that you have at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, so I mean, it definitely takes some while to see things. So, is there, I know that there's no like set, time limit and stuff, but what would you suggest like people give a social media manager or even themselves if they're doing it themselves, like the time to actually like see or feel the results more?
If you have a strategy in place, I emphasize
Yeah.
that. If you have a strategy in place, I would say about 90 days. Give things about 90 days to start to see some type. Now, if you're outsourcing and you have an agency, I would say you should start seeing some type of positive impact. So again, that might just look like increased reach, that might like increase follower growth, things of that nature within the first month or two. But to really see that business growth that you're looking for, whatever translation, I would say about 90 days is the good time to see, okay, we're
Yeah.
getting somewhere. Now things are moving, and then you should always see compounds from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of what I was thinking, about 3 months or so,
Yeah, that's a
to really
sweet
be able to see that. Yeah, and I think that goes true to, a lot of things, to like see if your email marketing is working or really anything in marketing, like especially, creative entrepreneurs, like they want that instant result and they think it's not working, so they panic and then they ditch it and start doing something else, which just messes up everything, right, for the strategy.
Yep, 100%. I see that so many times that businesses, they'll they'll start with one thing and then they'll see, especially if you're DIYing. Instagram is
Yeah.
filled with, or any social media platform is filled with a million gurus or experts that are telling you what to do. And so the truth is every strategy works. But if you're piecing together piece from strategy, it's kind of, I won't say watering down, but you're not seeing the full results if you just did this one thing consistently for this amount of time. There are things that can help you expedite your process, but if you're listening to someone that says, oh, you need to only post reels, and then someone that's saying you need to post 3 times a day, but someone's saying you only need to post 2 times a week, and then someone's saying, oh, don't worry about posting on your page, you only need to sell on your stories, and then someone's saying, it's just so much, and all of them are right, but you get overwhelmed by, oh, I'm only doing this for 1 or 2 weeks. I don't see the results. So now
Yeah.
it's switching, and you're not giving it time to really, it's like planting a seed, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yes, totally agree. And I mean, it's hard though, too, because you do want, and a lot of people, especially if they're starting, they need results, fast. So I think
Yeah.
that that's the hard part for them to overcome.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Especially with, I feel like there's so many people on social media who make it seem like their business was like an overnight success. Oh, this one strategy I did to make my content go viral. But what they're not telling you is that they've been studying marketing for the past 4 years and they've tried 5 different businesses and they've, all the other things, all the sleepless nights that actually led them to this quote unquote overnight success. And so it morphs the view, and then, of course, comparison comes in. You're comparing, you're like, well, if they're doing it, I should be here already. And now it's, more younger people who are seeing the success. And so if you're older in business, you're like, how is this 21-year-old a millionaire? And then who knows what's really fact or fiction.
Yes.
So social media, it can be hard.
Yeah.
to not compare and just stay focused on one thing, because we want that business growth. And then when we see what other people are doing, like, well, if they can do it, I can do it too, which you can, just got to be patient.
Yeah, imposter syndrome is so real.
Gosh, yeah.
And I think, just like you said, there's so many people out there that are, probably in the fake it till you make it, and you're looking and you're comparing yourself, like you said, and that's a really crazy world. And that also makes it hard for everybody to trust you when you're coming in saying, like, buy my products, use me, because how do they know to trust you, right?
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
So we've talked, a lot about this, the strategy of, like, following the strategy that you have implemented, give it some time to do and stuff. To dive a little bit deeper into that, what do you think that, businesses really fall behind on? What do you think their biggest mistakes are when it comes to social media, and, really how can they avoid them or change it?
Yeah. So the number one mistake I want to say is probably I don't think enough businesses are checking their analytics. Like I said, we're really data driven in our approach. So it's the easiest way to optimize. Look at what you're posting, what's performing well and what's not. You
Yeah.
don't have to do it every day, but maybe once a month or at least once a quarter, sit down and really look at what's your top performing content. You want to make more of that. What's your least performing content? You probably want to stop doing that. Making those small tweaks can really expedite your growth. The quicker, because everyone wants that quick growth. So making those small tweaks and really looking at your analytics is a big mistake that I see that a lot of businesses are not taking the time. And I know a lot of times it's because it can be overwhelming. You're seeing all these numbers, but not knowing what metrics are relevant, right? So,
Yeah.
what does my highest performing content actually look like? Like, is that the piece of content that got the most reach? Is that the piece of content with the most likes or shares? Or so again, it depends on what your business goals are, keeping that in mind and seeing what piece of content is actually or what content is helping you move forward in achieving that goal. Because a lot of times I see the content that has the least engagement might be the more higher converting, right? So
Mhm.
finding a good way to mix, because we obviously want to grow. So we want to have content that's getting us that growth, reaching new people, but we also want to make sure we have a solid foundation of content that's still converting. So making sure we're just tracking that and looking at our data.
Yeah, definitely. Now let's go back a little bit further, because we've talked about, a strategy. How can somebody make a strategy for their business? Like the very basics, because I know that this can get very complicated and very in depth and stuff. But how would somebody go about, like researching, deciding what exactly they want to do, what they're supposed to be looking at? Because I think a lot of people are just like, oh, if I just, get some templates and I can just, post them and use that and throw spaghetti at the wall, right?
Right. Yeah, 100%. Like you said, a strategy does get very, I won't say well, no, complex, but intricate. So I'm going to try and simplify it as best I can. The first thing I would say is look at what your business goals are and seeing how your social media can support you in those goals, right? Once you're able to clearly define, okay, if my business goals, we have a launch coming up, so I want to make sure I'm growing my email list. Okay, so that means we probably want to be focusing on building a community, nurturing our community, and making sure we're driving traffic to a lead magnet. So how are we going to focus on creating content that's going to draw traffic to that lead magnet, right? So that's the first thing, just making sure your social media goal and your aligns with your business goals. Because I see a lot of people say, "Oh, I just want to get 10K followers."
Why?
Why? But why though? Like let's make it make sense because I work with a lot of high ticket service providers. 10K followers is great, but let's be real. If you have 1,500 followers and they all haven't bought into your business, that's prime real estate. Those are people who've already committed to following you. That shows that they're
Mhm.
interested. Why aren't you spending more time in nurturing that community focus than rather than focusing on people that you need to get into, right?
Yeah.
So once we've aligned our business goals, I would say really look into our target audience, create some buyer personas, figure out how your messaging is going to speak specifically to their needs in a way that positions your offer as the perfect solution. And another mistake that it just popped up in my head is that I see a lot of people, they're focusing too much on pain point marketing. And when you do that, you're focusing too much on the problem. And so you attract an audience that is problem aware. The issue with people who are problem aware is that they realize they have a problem. and they realize they should probably, they may or may not realize that that problem should change. They just know I have an issue, right? However, when you focus your content on more of the solution, the transformation, the process, you're now going to start attracting people who are solution aware. And when you're solution aware, that means you're actively looking for solutions and you're ready to take action. So that's where
Mm,
you go from having the community of people who are just, I know they're your target audience, they are those people, but they're not the people who are ready to take action,
yeah.
or they're not the people who are going to, depending on your offer or your product, do what's necessary for them to see the results, right? So just making sure you're being very cognitive of the language you're using and emphasizing the solution and the transformation, right? And not just talking to, oh, if you're struggling with this, oh, if you feel exhausted doing this, that's great. And you want to have that, but you want to make sure you're bridging that gap from like, okay, this is where you're at. I want to make sure I'm talking to the people who are ready to get to point B now.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of target audience research. I think that will really help your social media strategy because your content will be specific. And one of the exercises I have my clients do, if you do any type of sales calls, discovery calls, whatever you call them, if you do those, look at the language that they're using, record them, and then re-listen to it back and mark down any language that they say that's really specific to how they're feeling in regards to their issues, and then how they feel in regards to where they want to get. So you'll start recording all this and you'll have a language bank of words that you want to use in your copy. So now you're using the words that they use. So when they see it, it's like, oh my, I was just thinking that because they were essentially thinking that, right?
Yeah. Genius.
So so that's one of my favorite exercises to have people do because you really at that point now your content starts to really perform more because we think most of us, when we start businesses, we were probably at one point our customers, right? Our ideal audience. And that's how a lot of
Yeah.
people start their businesses. That was me. And so now I'm going to help you not be that person anymore or become a better version of that person, shall I say. So making sure that you're not speaking in a language that makes sense just to you, but more or less to the people you're talking to. So that gets into messaging strategy. And the next thing, oh, a posting schedule, and establishing content pillars. So those are the next two things. So once you've aligned your business goals with your social media goals, you've done that target audience research, you're learning their language, you're getting really clear in your messaging. You next want to look at some content pillars. So what are about 3 to 5 things you really want your business to be known for? I don't really look at them as educational, aspirational. What's the other one? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't agree to those.
Yeah.
I think that's too general. And when you go into making content, it might be overwhelming because what are you going to educate on? It just
Hmm.
doesn't help you be more strategic in what you're posting. I think you should use that as the types of content you use within your content pillar. So say if you're a fitness coach and one of the content pillars you have is, your diet, right? Or that's too vague. Let's say you specialize in paleo diets. I think that's what it's called. So now you can educate on paleo diet. You can
Hmm.
make entertaining content in reference to that, and then you can make inspirational content all in relation to
Hmm.
that one content pillar that all is going to refer to your service and your overarching brand.
Or like meal planning, and you can use all the
Right.
categories for,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And then a content schedule. That's one of the biggest things. Do something that's realistic for you. If you are not someone who likes to be on video, then probably saying I'm going to do 5 talking head videos per week is unrealistic. You're right. You're going to get burnt out, and you're not going to see longevity in that. So whatever posting schedule you want to stick to, find something that works for you. Excuse me. Find something that works for you that you can be sustainable with long term, so that you can see those results over time and compound and then start to refine and optimize. Um, and then lastly, this is the last thing I can say with your social media strategy, you want to make sure you're also being aware of the buyer's journey. And so a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to make sales content, or you're going to assume that once people see your content for the first time, that they already know who you are. And
Hmm.
that's really not the case, right? So you want to make sure that you're creating content that takes them from being aware of your brand to now considering your brand to now wanting to take action with your brand. And then that action would ultimately be, again, depending on your business goals, to sign up for your email list or to make a purchase or to follow you, again, depending on your business goals. So just making sure you're making content throughout the buyer's journey that will help you grow, that will help you nurture and help you convert your audience.
I love that. That is so packed with value
I
and so
know I
many.
I feel like I word vomited so much, but there's so
No.
much that goes into strategy.
Yeah, so it makes me, think like, okay, so if you have, the strategy and the plan and everything, and you have this great content that you're ready to do, how can you make sure that the right people are getting it and going to be able to see it?
Right now, I would say learning SEO and not in like a super comprehensive way, like if you're doing it for a website, but just making sure you're taking into consideration what terms that people are going to be looking for if they're interested in your type of content. So, for instance, I do social media marketing. I try to make sure I integrate social media marketing, social media strategy, Instagram growth for businesses, words like that organically within my content. Of course, you can use hashtags. There's some people say that you could what is it called? Keyword dump at the
Mhm.
bottom. I do that sometimes. I haven't really been able to tell if it's truly increasing the impact because there's so many things that, go into that, but it doesn't hurt to try that. But making sure you're being specific with your keywords. And then again, that messaging.
Mhm.
If your messaging is clear in your content, you're calling out who your target audience is, that makes it easier for Instagram to or whatever platform you're on to make sure they're reaching those people who might relate to those words. Or when people see those words, they react to the content. And now it's going to, the algorithm works to find, okay, if this person liked it, maybe let me find 10 more of those people and then 100 more of those people and so on and so forth.
That makes perfect sense. And if somebody wanted to do, research for the keywords or what people are looking for and stuff, what is the best way for them to do that?
There are a lot of different apps you can use. SEMrush is really popular, but they do have a paid option. I'm not familiar with their free one now because I've been using it for so long. But honestly, if you want to keep it simple, using Google. Google, you can literally type in. So let's say, your fitness meal prep is one of your things. And I would say meal prep for, let's say, weight loss or bulking or whatever it is. If that is you literally type it in Google. And then when you type it in Google, it automatically curates what other people are searching in relation to that.
Mm,
Go into the rabbit holes, what I call it. You want to start there and say, okay, if you type in meal prep for weight loss and then see what other things are generating off of that idea. And then, in Google, they have like those five little lines. I don't know what they're called, but like the suggested questions that people are asking.
yeah.
Make content on those ideas as well, because that's what people are really looking up. Google Keywords or Google Trends is a good one to find keywords. You can also use Ask the Public, Cura's good, Reddit. There's so many different ways you can honestly do it, but those are some of the favorite ones that I use.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Let's talk about some controversial social media things.
Mhm.
Now, what is your feeling on a lot of people, and I say a lot, but not like the majority by any means, doing the static nine grid on Instagram?
Oh, the stat. Yeah, no.
I said controversial.
Right. Well, I won't say no completely. So if
Hmm.
it's a static nine and it's just like one not a carousel,
Okay.
then it probably not so much. Now, it depends on your brand as well. The only time that I see that work is if you're using like Twitter screenshot type of things. Like those, that works pretty well. And again, it would depend on your brand. I would
Hmm.
not suggest it though. It limits your growth, especially if it's
Hmm.
just a single image. But those Twitter posts tend to be very shareable. Right now, most platforms are favoring shareable content. So it could work in your favor, but if you're just posting like a cute picture, an
Hmm.
aesthetic picture like that, yeah, no. I would not recommend having a static nine of just that. But if it's a Twitter type post or like a Twitter setup graphic type post and it's a highly shareable piece of content, it can work. And
Hmm.
carousels are still good. I know some people who literally all they post is carousels. They rarely ever
Hmm.
post reels and they see really good results from that. I actually have a client, her reels almost never perform as well as her carousels. It's the most for me, it's so mind-blowing because short form content performs so well over most of the clients I work with. But for her, it doesn't perform like horribly, but her carousels just take off. They're so well performing, and that goes to knowing your audience and using that data, because social media tell you, oh, we need to be using short form content. That's what it is. But when you look at her data, it's like, yeah, that's cool and all, but her carousels are performing so well. So we're doubling down on that because that's
Hmm.
what's working for her.
Yeah, and that totally just proves that it's completely different for everybody, your audience, your niche. And even if you're in the same niche as somebody else, like just you as a person who you are bringing into your world might
Mhm.
resonate differently with it.
Exactly.
It's
100%.
such an odd thing because it is very hard to like master. And I think that that brings us back to, like you saying you always need to be checking your analytics. You're always going to need to be monitoring. You're going to be able to review and adjust that, where I think that if that's not your main focus in your business, it probably doesn't get done, right?
Yeah, it'll fall through the cracks easily.
Okay, so the next controversial one is, what is your thoughts on putting hashtags in the post or in the first comment?
Well, years ago, I don't know about you. When I say years ago, it might have been like 2 years ago. Instagram actually came out and said that you should put it in your caption. I'm not your, yeah, in your caption.
Mhm.
Um, but I've tested out both ways with accounts. I've seen it work when you still put it in your comments. I've seen it work in your caption. I don't think social media has changed so much. I don't think there's so much weight
Yeah.
on the placement of it, if I'm being honest. But like I said, Instagram has came out and said, this was years ago now. You can like Google Instagram hashtag Adam put out a video. At this point, I think it might have been like 2020, 2021, and saying that yeah, hashtags they're better if they're in the actual caption. But I don't think it makes that much of a difference if I'm being honest.
And I think that, social media is always changing so fast that it always feels like it was such a long time ago, too. Like
Yeah,
a couple of
no,
months
seriously.
ago, what's working isn't working now. And I mean,
Yeah.
it feels like years ago, right?
Right. No, seriously. And like I feel like that like after COVID, like time just is like morphed and everything just seems like so like time is going by so quick but so slow. It's like this weird, I don't know, conundrum we're in.
Yes. It's like it's some black hole we're all stuck in, I think, for sure. Okay, the last one that I have for this is links. Now, this doesn't really go very well with Instagram, except, obviously your link in bio and stuff. But obviously, a lot of these platforms want people to stay on their platforms. So they don't usually like links in the posts and stuff, sending people out, right?
Right.
So, how do you get people to sign up for your lead magnets? How do you get people to sign up for your webinars?
hmm So the one thing I can say is that I think a lot of platforms they have made a shift um to where it's not as it won't necessarily hurt you to make to send links to get people off the platform. It doesn't hurt them as
Mhm,
much if you're creating content that's building community, if you're creating
mhm.
content that's keeping people on the platform still. So if your engagement is great, they're not gonna, this is just my personal theory, by the way. There's
Right.
real research on this. They're not going to necessarily hurt your profile because you're driving someone elsewhere because especially they want businesses to spend money on their platforms. And so they realize that if I want you to spend money on a platform or at least money or time, whether using ads or organic, attention is time or is attention is money for these platforms. If you want that, I know that I'm gonna have to make it make sense for your business. So I don't
Yeah.
feel it's as what's the word? It's
Encumbering.
yes, I was trying to think like you get dinged for. I can't think of what it is,
Yeah.
but the uncumbering is a better word. Um, as people would think, and an easy way, obviously ManyChat is the most popular thing to use right now, and I definitely think people should
Mhm.
be using it. But what I've seen, instead of just sending them the link directly, have a small conversation with them, and ManyChat can automate that really easily. So you can have like a three question like, "Hey, I saw you comment. Thanks for commenting on this post. Are you interested in this? If you are, just respond saying yes." Then they respond saying yes, and then, "Oh, awesome! I'm so glad you're interested in this offer. It'll be great to help you with whatever you're helping them with. Can you give me your name and your email so I can make sure to." Send it over to you or something like can I get your name to send
Yeah.
this over to you and then the next message is okay great thanks for sending me your name and so now at this point it doesn't seem like it's just a straight in the DM straight to the link it to the algorithm at least it looks like you're building a little bit of a relationship with them and now by that second or third message you send them a link to download it and then boom you're still getting them in there and you're having that conversation where the algorithm doesn't look like oh I'm just sending them a link directly so
Yeah. And that makes perfect sense too. Um, what do you suggest? I think that, people really struggle with trying to do all the things and be in all the places. What is your suggestion for people to find the platform to be on? How many platforms? Should they be making content that's specific to each platform, or using a scheduler and using the same content to go out?
yeah. Um, So I guess the first part of your question is where to be at and what to be doing. It really depends on your audience. So let's be well, for one, I want to start saying every audience is on every platform. That I just want to start. Everyone is everywhere. It just doesn't
Hmm.
matter. If you have CEOs on Facebook, you have CEOs on TikTok, you know.
Yeah.
You obviously have them on LinkedIn or on Instagram. So just figure out which platform is most optimized for the
And
type of
they're
content.
doing different things on each of those platforms,
Right.
right?
Very true. Very true. So again, so keeping all of that in consideration in regards to your offer. Are people going to TikTok to advance their career, like just trying to
Mhm.
think into the nuances of where the
Yeah.
majority of your audience is. And then honestly, if you already have a business, kind of just poll your audience, see how they felt. Well, if you're starting off, you might not have that information, but just seeing if you have
Hmm.
a slight of an audience, even if it's small, polling them to see where they are. I would recommend starting off with one, maybe two platforms if you have the bandwidth for it, because to do everything you need to do to engage and really build that community to help push your content out there, it takes time. And you're running a business as well, so you don't probably have 8 hours a day to be spending three engaging on this platform, another two on, and then creating the content and then checking your data and your analytics, right? It can be really time consuming. So I would just recommend starting off with one, maybe two platforms. And again, the platform where you feel your offer will connect the best with your audience. LinkedIn is a new gold mine that I'm checking out right now, and I love it. I've been using LinkedIn I started in August, and I think when I started, I might have had 100 followers. It's now almost the end of September, beginning of October. I have almost 1,000 at this point. So I can say that if you're a B2B business, LinkedIn is a great place to be. And you're in a network that people are, they're, when you're on LinkedIn, you're like kind of networking, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Versus when you're, like you said, every platform you use differently. When I'm on Instagram, I'm networking because I'm a social media marketer and I'm always trying to expand my,
Right.
but you might not be going when I'm on my personal page, I'm not going in there to network. I might be going on there to, I'm really big into fashion. So finding the newest fashion trends or like the home decor trends or like eating out, like, travel, all that type of stuff. So just knowing the intricacies and the differences with your audience and how they relate to each platform, pick that platform. Um,
And probably
oh,
about what your goals are too,
of course. Yep. All of
right?
that plays into it. And then keeping in mind, like you said, so for repurposing content, I always suggest switching it up a little bit. I call TikTok the wild, wild west of social media. You can keep the video the same, but maybe the edits or the captions or like the on-screen text, that's the type
Hmm.
of stuff that you want to switch from platform to platform. And then yeah, every platform uses short form content right now. So, you can keep the video the same. Now, the one thing I will say, if you're using LinkedIn though, like the little lifestyle videos, I'm new to LinkedIn, so I don't know how well those perform, versus
Hmm.
like on TikTok and Instagram or Facebook. Those will do exceptionally well. I'm not really sure with LinkedIn. I think there's short form, like talking head videos are still a lot better for that type of platform. But just knowing how to make the slight changes and the nuances of what that platform likes. So TikTok, I mean, not TikTok, LinkedIn's a little more professional. So you want your headlines or your captions on your videos to be a little more of a business professional tone. Even if your business is like witty, you still want to try to convey that little bit of a professionalism with it.
Hmm.
Versus TikTok, you can say like the most out of the box, like wild thing on there, and then Instagram it's not as wild as TikTok. So it's a happy medium between the two, if you will. So yeah, making small shifts. I don't believe that you should just repost everything exactly, switch up the caption a little bit because your audience and how they react on every platform is different. When I'm on LinkedIn, I act a little bit different than I am on Instagram, and that's
Hmm.
like when you go to, your Chick-fil-A, you might act a little bit different than if you go out to, Carrabba's or Longhorns or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, taking in those differences.
that was a great analogy.
Thank you.
I love that. Yeah, I totally agree on that. I mean, all the platforms are very different, and depending on what your goal is, you have to approach that completely differently. And I think, LinkedIn is very professional, very business. And I also think that a really great one that's becoming popular that people are getting into is not really a social media platform. It's more of SEO based, but Pinterest.
Yes, I love Pinterest.
Yeah.
I'm not really in the Pinterest marketing phase just yet,
Hmm.
but as a consumer, I use
Hmm.
Pinterest all the time, like literally all the time. I'm
Well, the
always looking.
great thing about that is they want you to put a link to go
Exactly,
somewhere else. So
exactly,
that's what's really,
exactly.
really good about that. So LinkedIn and Pinterest are, I think, really good places for people who do not want to focus on algorithm or really don't do well in social media because there are some people who just can't grasp it, they can't maintain it, they don't want to participate at all.
Yeah, 100%,
And
100%.
I think the other thing is that I would say about any social media platform and stuff is that each one of them does better when you spend time on there and you interact and you participate. And a lot of people will just get on there and post and ghost, right?
Exactly.
Especially
It's
if you use
one,
a social media scheduler because you're
yeah.
not even there.
Yeah, and that's why that's a controversial topic within the
Hmm.
social media. Like, do you use a schedule or do you not? And so I've always been a manual post kind of girl, but now that I'm getting more clients, it's honestly
You
hard.
can't do
I
that. Yeah.
do, but it's hard. So what I've realized is it's less about not being on the platform when you're posting, and it's more about, for one, if it's good content, it's gonna work regardless. That's the one
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
But two, if you're engaging on, if you're still using that profile throughout the day, if you're still, having those meaningful conversations and leaving good comments and not just, oh, great posts, because that makes me cringe. But if you're still leaving those meaningful comments and engaging and liking and doing all those type of things, it's still signaling the algorithm that I'm not just here for me. I'm not just self-serving, I'm still
Yeah.
using the platform as you want me to use your platform.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of the platforms have really transitioned into wanting to build more engagement from within. So they want to see that you're providing value, that you're participating and helping the algorithms and helping everybody else. So it's very interesting, but everything is always changing, of
I was
course.
gonna say, yeah, and everything is always changing. Well, it's working now. And it's so funny. I was literally just thinking this last night. It's so crazy. Well, it's so people who, like, not Gen Z, but we grew up when Instagram just came out, right? Like, I was
Hmm.
in high school, I believe, when Instagram came out. And, followers and likes were the things to have back then because that's all, that we have. And it's just evolved so much in these 10 plus years. And that's like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. This is what Instagram used to be. And now look at it. Like,
Yeah, it's crazy the amount of platforms, of social media platforms. It's crazy what they all do individually now. I'm an elder millennial, so I grew up without the social media, which is probably for the best at that time because there's no proof of me being a teenager
yep, yep.
unless you have physical pictures.
Mhm.
Um, but I do find it very, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Tell everybody about your services, your offerings that you have within your company, what you can do for everybody, and how they can all reach you.
Yeah, so I offer a wide ranges of services depending on where you're at in your business. So we offer social media strategy. And so it's kind of like a VIP or intensive where everything I was telling you that you need to do in your strategy, you're like, Morgan, that is great information, but I don't possibly have the bandwidth or the time to do that. That's no problem. I can do all that for you. So we do some really deep diving research on your audience and all that good stuff. And we come up with a very comprehensive, it's a 40 plus page document for you to follow, and you'll have all the details and it'll give you that clarity you need. Okay, what do I need to be posting on social media so you have that confidence to show up and stay consistent? Because we know that's the biggest thing. People, they lack the confidence because they're like, I don't know if what I'm doing is working. And when you lack that confidence and you're not sure if what's working, then you're like, man, it ends up falling to the back burner. Then you start creating content last minute and then not at all. And you have that
Yeah.
inconsistent up and down. So if you're tired of that up and down, then we have a social media strategy session. And then we also offer social media marketing or account management. So it's a comprehensive done for you. We create the strategy, we create the content, we edit your videos, we do all of that really, really good stuff. We do all the DM management, the community building, all of that. So if you're like, I just want to be as hands off as possible, we take all of that, the hassle of social media away from you. If you're like, I just don't have the budget to outsource completely yet. I actually just created, and I'm in the process of launching. So you get some insider scoop here
Yeah.
of a new program, which it's like an 80/20 done for you. I haven't quite figured out the name of it, so we're gonna call it a
Done with you.
yeah, done with you. Yeah. So it's like it's a custom. So you know how you have those generic content calendars that just say, oh, poster before and after, poster review,
Hmm.
post, that it gives you a framework, but then you still have to figure out exactly what to post, like what before and
Yeah.
after, what objection do I take all that out from you. So with a custom monthly content calendar. You get every 2 weeks, because we do include trains as well. So we make sure it's still really relevant. Every 2 weeks, I send out, depending on which package you choose, because you can do 5 posts, 7 posts, or more, depending on what you need. But I do everything for you. I write the captions, I write the scripts, I send over inspiration videos for you to know what to record yourself. I do the hashtag research, the keyword research. I find the audios. Like it's literally 80% done. So once it gets to you, you don't have to think about the content and the creative aspect of it. You literally just have to
Do it.
do it, you know? So it makes it a lot more streamlined, and you
Yeah.
can approach social media a lot more of a strategic and easy way. And it's not just as much of a hassle, because I know a lot of times they struggle with coming up with content ideas or knowing exactly what to post. So
Yes.
that's
Literally, my friend and I were just talking about this yesterday about how she doesn't mind doing videos at all, but it's coming up with the ideas or it's adding the overlays and it's adding the music and it's all this other stuff that's just like, it's not worth it and done.
exactly. Yep.
But
Yep. And
they,
so
but she said, if somebody would just give me exactly what I need to do.
well, and see exactly, because I had a lot of people that are like, "Hey, Morgan, I love the strategy you can created, and we're getting somewhere, but I feel I'm spread too thin. I have so many
Yep.
other areas of my business I need to focus on right now. I just can't. When I come to sit down to create all these content, because you have all these ideas in your head, but when you sit down to actually create, it's like your brain just goes
Yep.
blank, right? And
And
so
it's,
that's
I think it's easier too sometimes to have somebody who's on the outside.
100%. I believe that as well. Even with my own business, I like
Yeah.
to have outside eyes come look at my messaging and everything, because when you're in the inside, it's kind of like, sometimes it's hard to look at the uniqueness of your business because you're
Yeah.
in it all the time. So I always believe in having a fresh set of eyes all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I agree. So is that all of your services and programs that you're
Yes,
offering
yes.
right now?
I do content creation as well, but those are for local businesses. So if you are in Florida, Northeast Florida or Central Florida, and you need any help with content creation, where I come in and I do, basically we do, it's a content day, and we'll be there for 3 to 5 hours, depending on which package you choose, and you'll have everything done for you, reels ready to post and everything. But again, you would have to be in Northeast Florida or Central Florida to take advantage of that offer.
Or plan a trip?
Or plan a trip. Yes, yes, yes. I am open to traveling. So if that's something you guys want to talk about, hey, we can travel. I'm cool with that.
That's right. And make it worth your while, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I would assume that probably most of your packages and stuff are customizable. They're priced based off of what the client needs and how much of it,
Mhm.
etc.
Yeah, so I do have some baseline packages, that this kind of guide me into making sure when I'm having a conversation, this is where we're
Mhm.
starting at. But I am really big on customization, because again, social media is not one size fit all. So what you might have not have the bandwidth will not social media is not one size fits all. So what you have
Yeah,
the bandwidth for, someone else might not have, or you like, hey, Morgan, I'm actually really good. Or you like doing the engagement. I like having those conversations. So I don't need that in my package. So I'm completely open to customizing it exactly to your needs, because I don't believe in giving people what they don't need. I think like a lot of businesses, they fail at that point when it comes to like customization and making it work for you and work for them.
definitely. Absolutely. 100%. 1,000,000%, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, so tell our amazing audience where they can find you and how they can connect with you so that they can hire you to take away the thing that drives them crazy the most.
Yes, yes. So you guys can find me on Instagram. It's mg.mediagroup. And then on LinkedIn, I'm still new there, but if you Google my name, it's Morgan Rutledge, on LinkedIn. But I am engaged, so it might be Morgan Mills soon. But if you find me on
Yeah,
Instagram, it's on LinkedIn.
we'll put both of your names
Yeah.
in everything, and we're going to drop all of the links to connect with Morgan and her company so that you guys can reach out and schedule something with her as soon as possible.
Yes.
And thank you so much for joining me today, Morgan. You have been amazing and provided so much value.
Good. I'm so glad I can help. And I want to give you one last bonus tip before I log off. You mentioned
Yes.
Pinterest marketing. And this is a new thing that I'm testing out with my own business. You can actually take your Instagram or TikTok
I'm doing
video.
that.
Are you? It's pretty game changer. I'm not even gonna lie. And you can post those on Pinterest, and then that way you're drawing traffic to your Instagram video.
Instagram. Yep.
It's
Yeah.
like literally it's this warp of loop, and I think it's going to be really powerful. I really do. I think that's
And
going to
you
be
do that right inside Instagram, right? You set it up, or did you do it inside Pinterest? I don't even remember. I did it so long ago and it just automatically does it. The only time I remember that it's even doing it is when it emails me and it says, "Hey, this one failed. This one
yeah,
didn't go." And
yeah.
I was like, I don't know
So
why.
I do it manually, so I'm not sure how to automate it just yet.
Oh, well, I'm
Um,
gonna look then and I'll tell you.
yeah. So
Look, you learned
you
something
learn
from me.
something, right? So yeah, I do it manually. So after I post the video on Instagram, I just take the link and the video, upload it to Pinterest and like all the caption and everything. It's an extra step, but it can be really, really powerful because like if you're really, really good with your SEO,
Hmm.
Pinterest is it literally people are getting millions of views per
Hmm.
month. And with Pinterest,
Yeah.
you don't really care so much about followers because that's not really a thing. You really care about those views. How many people are you getting to your content? How many people are clicking or,
Yeah.
whatever action is that you want them to do? And that's where the power in Pinterest lays. So you can if vanity metrics are a thing that you know that you
Hmm.
like about Pinterest, I don't care about followers. I care less.
Yeah, and I want to
Someone
mention too, like because you said SEO and everything. So that's the reason why it's not really a social media platform is because like YouTube, it's SEO based so that when you go to Google and you type that thing in, that stuff is coming up. It's part of the searches and stuff. So
Mhm.
that's one of my big goals this year that I've been focusing on is SEO of like my
Same.
website, my blogs, and
Mhm.
lining in Pinterest into that and not really YouTube because I just feel like that's just one I'm never gonna like
Yeah.
grasp. I just do it all, I just to do it, but I don't it's not top of my line. So when all the spammers message me, if you're listening and you say you can help optimize my channel,
Not
don't waste your
interested.
time. Not
Right, right.
interested. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Make sure that you like and subscribe to our podcast show, The Business Lounge, and also our YouTube channel, which is named the same, The Business Lounge, even though I'm not optimizing it. If you want to see our beautiful faces online, that's where you have to go. So we will see you all next time.